we're now in the point in the sweater where we finished the yoke and we finished all the way down the body. See right to the bottom here where I've all the way down to my ribbing. And so the next thing that we're going to do is go back and start the sleeves. Now there's a couple of things that you'll see in relation to the sleeves. The first is all of our stitches from the ribbing on the yoke are still here on waste yarn. And I've also left those 2 stitch markers there so that my central 2 knit stitches from my decreases in the shoulder are still there. Now at the start I was talking about the fact that I wanted to make sure that it was all going to continue down with the same color. So I'm coming back here to this yarn that I had marked with right on it, and so I know that that's the same color that I had here, so I'll have a nice continuation on. If necessary, if I'm going to run out before the end, I can start alternating with another one, but I can start with the same color so there won't be any disjoint gap here at the end. Now what we've got a couple of different things that we're going to try and do now with the arm. What you have is you've got a stretch here. This is the underarm down here. This is the first point where we're going to pick up stitches from. These stitches will go back on the needle and will be worked around, and then the other side here you will pick stitches down around. The pattern will tell you, depending on your size, how many stitches you need to pick up on each side, and then you just pick up all the way around. Usually when I am picking stitches up, I will go ahead and work about 1 stitch in from the edge. You see right along here, I'll show you how I go ahead and start picking them up. And you can see as well I'm using a circular needle because my preferred method for working in the round would be magic loop. But if you prefer double pointed needles or 2 circular needles, just go right ahead and do that. This is entirely personal preference. So when I'm picking up stitches, I move 1 stitch in from the edge, I put it right through the work. I'm going to try and find the tail of my yarn here, which is hiding, and then I wrap the yarn around and pull it through. The first one is the trickiest because the yarn is not attached, and then I work my way up along the edge. Here again, put it through, wrap around as if you're knitting, and then I actually hold the knitting as though it was the other needle to a certain extent and pull it around like that. And so I work my way up along the edge, picking up stitches until I reach the edge here. So I'm going to go and pick up the number of stitches I need, and then I'll show you what we do with this. You can see here I've got all of those stitches picked up along here. Now I want to go ahead and put these stitches on the other end of my circular needle. I'm going to come at it from this side because that way I'd have this needle sitting here waiting for me to knit them. You can also, before you pick up those stitches, you can also go ahead and put the other stitches on the needle before you ever start and then pick up the stitches, and that works fine too. This part is probably a little bit easier if you've got double pointed needles because you can have this one's picked up on 1 needle, you can pick these one up on another, and the other one on this side would be a 3rd one, so that part's going to be a bit easier. But for me, I'm going to flip this around here, then I'm going to find the start of the stitches, and all I'm going to do then is just carefully maneuver each of those stitches that were held onto the needle, and when that's done I will slide the yarn that was holding the stitches out, and I'll just work the stitches in the pattern presented. So if they're knit, I knit them, and if they're purl, I'll purl them. I've now finished working the ribbing across the back, and you can see here with the magic loop I've put my break right at the top in the middle of those 2 knit stitches, and I've worked that ribbing all the way along here, and then I've picked up the other stitches down the side here all the way to my underarm. So you can see start down one side all the way up, across the ribbing and down the other side. And so for that point we're going to join in the round, and in this case I've got my magic loop with my loop on one side and my needles on the other side, and I'm just going to keep working in the round with my decreases down at the top of the sleeve. And off you go and finish your sleeve.